Of recording. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Let me adjust the screen here. I don't know why it just seems like my face is like right in the screen. Hello. Okay, so we are going to get started with Money Matters on Monday. It is September the 9th. So 9/9. Right. So if you are suspicious, then that might not be a good number for you. All right. So let's get going with this Money Matters. So we have a good question actually to come up. But before we go into the calculations for this one question about, is it better to have a vacant unit or is it better to reduce the rent so that you can get a tenant in there? So we're going to talk a little bit about that and then go into the calculation. I have actually never done that calculation. So you're going to see me sort of building it out and going through the thought process of that. Okay, so we will go into that as well. So before we get going here, let me just throw out there that before you implement any of the stuff that I do, please, this is really for educational purposes, really helping fellow investors and accredited investors to make sort of good, sound decisions. So please go and just double check all of the information. If I say anything or show anything that is, not correct, please let me know. I, love to hear a little bit more and make sure that I'm doing things and, learning as I go. Okay, so let's go. Oh, my shout outs. Oh yeah. Let me make sure I share this. So let me go into my share. So I want to do two shout outs today. The first one is to the Chan family. They operate CHW flooring, floor wholesaling in Burnaby, Vancouver area. And it's not just for contractors or wholesaling, it's open to the general public. Okay. And one of the reasons why I love this is because I love hardwood flooring and carpeting is nice. Okay. But hardwood flooring, oh my God, like if you can buy a property with old hardwood flooring and bring it back to life, that is absolutely amazing. But if you need new hardwood flooring, okay, these guys are the guys to go to. So growing up as a Chinese immigrant with a variety store, going to the wholesaler was a big benefit because we would buy from the wholesaler and sell it in our corner store and mark it up. Well, these guys here, even though they are a wholesaler, they also are open to the general public, which is why I love this concept is that it's not just geared towards general contractors or developers. It's open to the general public. Okay. So if you are in need of some flooring, check out these guys. You could just Google them. They have a whole website and everything. CHW Floor Wholesale. They are in Vancouver, Burnaby. So they, think of it this way. Even if you live in Surrey or North Van, it's close enough for you to drive that it's worth it because of the amount of money you'll save from buying from a wholesaler and also the knowledge that you'll get. If you buy from these guys have been in business, I want to say longer than I've been alive, but no, okay, not that long, but they've been in business for a very, very long time. Okay, so that is the first shout out. Okay, so CHW Floor Wholesale. The second shout out is to my friend and colleague out at EcoSmart Builders, Mark Dupree. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time over the weekend to walk me through a real estate strategy. And so just doing a big shout out to you. And if you are looking for a builder in Ontario, Mark's the guy to go to. Okay. He is licensed and is able to, I think it's called the Turion designation or warranties. So he is able to provide that work for you and help you build out. Okay. So he's Mark Dupree at Smart Builders. All right. So those are my two shout outs today. All right. So let's go into this renting out. Yeah. Okay. So this came up because I'm renting out one of my units in Toronto and I'm still self-managing. So if you know of somebody who is looking for a rental unit, please let me know. You can connect with me through my QR code. So let me share the Excel sheet and we will walk through the question of, is it better to, let me see, is it better to to decrease the rent so that you can get a tenant in there? Or is it better to keep the rents the way they are and have it vacant for like a month or two, hopefully not longer than that, to find, the right tenant who's willing to pay at the market rents? Okay, so let me just type this out because I know that sometimes I can talk really fast and the question sort of gets lost there. Okay, so is it better to reduce the rent, okay, to get a tenant? And of course, it's not of course. Sometimes my spelling can be a little bit off here. Or have a vacant unit, okay, a vacant unit for a few months. Okay, so now it's actually quite interesting because my kid, who's 11, is like saying, Mom, why do I need to actually learn how to spell or write or do math mentally when there's Google, when there's calculators, when there's, you know, AI and all that stuff? Okay, well, I still do believe in that, having that mental knowledge. Okay, so the question is it better to reduce the rent to get a tenant or have a vacant unit for a few months? Okay, so if you are operating, it doesn't matter if you are having, 1 or 2 units or having a multi-family. And this is also good for commercial properties as well, right? You sort of want to go through this calculation because you want to know, okay, well, how long can I have the place vacant before I need to look at potentially reducing the rents? Okay, so what we're talking about is market rents here. We're not talking about cheap rents here, right? So the market rent for this unit that I'm renting out is 1,600 per month. Okay, so, and to get this market rent number, you can ask the realtor, you can do a Google search to see how much rents are being asked for by other landlords. So that's exactly what I did when I found out that the tenant was moving. I just did a quick search on rentboard.ca. That's where I advertise, on rentboard.ca. And then they send it out to like all these different platforms. Okay, so so the rent is 1,600. And that's per month. So over the year, I would be making, let's see here, star 12. Okay, just over $19,000 a year on just the rental income. Now, for those of you who who are like, oh, that's a lot of money. It's like, yes, that's a lot of money. But here's the thing though, I have to take this 19,000, pay for my mortgage, pay for my expenses to operate the property. So don't think that 19,000 is going right into my pocket, right? Like that is pre-expenses. Okay, so pre-expenses. Okay, so I'm just putting that out there so that if somebody who's watching who's not a landlord or who doesn't understand real estate, I just want to clarify that that is not 100% of cash going into my pocket, because I get this comment from a lot of my tenants saying, Huong, you make a lot of money. Like I'm paying you this much money. Like, why can't I just, get $50 in rent deduction? Okay, it doesn't work that way because not all of that goes into my pocket. Okay. Okay, so now if I have the unit vacant, so let's just say I have the unit vacant and this is going to be in my number here, and I have it vacant for 3 months. Okay, let's just say it's going to be sitting vacant for 3 months. Okay, so that means my lost income, okay, is going to be 3 months times my 1,600. Okay, so that's 4,800 for the year that I'm going to lose, right? So that's quite a bit of money to lose in the year. And if you think about it, okay, to get a new furnace for the year, like if something went wrong with my furnace, I'd have to pay, I don't know, $5,000 to $15,000 for a new furnace. So this wouldn't even cover the replacement of a new furnace, right? So this income here is pretty important because I need that to pay for the mortgage, pay for repairs. And so if this money doesn't come in, I could potentially be in a negative cash flowing situation for that year. Okay, so this, would also depend on how big your rental property is. Like if this is, less than 4 units, yeah, you could be in a negative cash flowing situation very quickly. If you're in like a 50 unit building, okay, a $4,000 loss for that one unit, if that's all you've lost that year, okay, you know what? It's not gonna move the needle in any way for you. Okay, so is it better to reduce the rent potentially and not have this vacant thing for 3 years? Okay, so let's calculate this. So if it's sat vacant for 3 years, then my total income then for that year would be 19,000 minus, 19,000 minus the 4,000 something. So then my net, not net, my income for that one year. Okay, so this is an important thing to point out. That first year or that first 12 months, I'm only going to be making 14,000, but then every single year after that, every year after, okay, I'm going to make at least 19,000. Okay, now with the rental increase, okay, so now this is where the math really starts, like you really have to think about the math here, because if I'm in, let's say, Toronto or Vancouver, my rental increase per year is set by the rental cap. So let's just say it's 2%. Okay. It really is just around 2. I think last year was 2.5. Okay. So you really want to take this portion into consideration, because if you're not increasing your rents every year, you're setting yourself up to be in a situation where you're going to be hundreds of dollars below market rent. And it's very, very hard to catch up. Okay, I've been in that situation because I started off, without any coaching. And I was like, okay, you know what? As long as I have a great tenant there, I'm not going to increase the rent every year. I'll increase it every second or third year. Wow. Like I had some tenants with me for 10 years. Okay, do the math. Okay, well, maybe another episode we'll do the math on how much money I actually lost because I was trying to be a fair landlord. And it was like, oh my God, like that's a huge chunk of money. Okay, so yeah, that would be an interesting calculation to do out. Okay, so if we had a 2% rental increase every single year, okay, that and that's compounding. Okay, so we'll actually have to reset this table here. Okay, that's $384 for the year. Okay, so that's what we're going to have to do. So I'm just going to reset this table here. So I'm going to put this over here. Rental increase this amount. Okay, so then I'm going to put this here. Okay, and this is going to be the starting base. Okay, so my starting base is 19,000. I'm going to have a rental increase of 2%. So that's going to be $384. Now this is for the year. Okay. For, oh, well, what are we doing here? Okay. Okay. So for the year. Okay. So that means, yeah, wouldn't that be amazing if it was per month? Okay. So that divided by 12. So that's $32 per month. Okay. So that's per month. Okay, so now we're going to go and see, let's see. So hold on. Okay, so let's go back here. So this is per year. So it's going to be 19,200 plus the $384. So that goes up to 9,584. Okay, that's per year. So that's the new rent now. Okay, so that means that the rent per month, okay, is now 16,000 plus the $32. Okay, so it's 1632. So just from that number, it doesn't make a big difference. Okay, so we're going to year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to say we're going to calculate this and show what the compounding effect of rental increases are when you're able to increase it year over year. Okay, so we're going to do 2%, let's just say, And that's going to calculate there. What happened there? So why did that not calculate? Let's see. Every year after. Oh, okay, because it's taking the wrong year. Okay, so we're going to go there. So this number here should actually be the 920 from my C, not there. Let's see, C12 should actually be B17. Okay, so now I'm going to copy that down. So you could see every single year, it's going to go up by about $12, which doesn't seem to make a big deal. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to copy that formula over. So now it goes up to $33. Yeah, $33 per month. So then it's going to go up to 19,976. So it's almost gone up by a full $1,000 if you think about it in 2 years. Okay, so now my rental, what does that mean? Plus, 16 per month. Okay, so here we go. So let's go here. So this is the 1,600 here. And then this is going to be that plus this number here per month. Okay, so that's going to be this plus $32. Okay, so then this is going to be this 32 plus $33. Okay, so keep in mind, even though I'm saying this is the first year, this is the first year that you can increase the rents. So there's like a zero line. So this first one is actually in your year 2 that the tenant, so the tenants already lived there 1 full year. Okay, so then this is the monthly rent. Okay, so after you increase it in the first year, okay, it's at 1,632, and then by the second year, they're up to 1,665. So you can see it's gone up by $65 already. So now let's basically copy this down for 5 years and see where that takes us. Okay, so if in the third year, now we're starting again. Okay, so now you're actually making a whole $1,000 by the end of your second year that the tenant's been, by the end of your third year when the tenant's been there already. Now you're increasing the rents by 2% every year. So now your rental increase is going up from $384 to $416, and that's per year, right? Roughly, because it's going to go up every single year. So basically now the monthly rent after 5 years is $1,767. That's huge. Okay, so that's what's happening if you just sit vacant for 3 months to try and get a new tenant to move in at the market rent. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to copy this over. And let's just say that after a couple of days, you're not getting any interest and you're like starting to panic. And you're like, oh my God, maybe I just need to decrease the rent a little bit to try and get a tenant in there. So let's just say now we decrease the rent to 15. So you're literally knocking $100 off a month. And now because you do this, you only have one vacant. Oh, hold on. I noticed an error in my calculation here. Why is this? So let's see. This is E6. Oh, it's still pulling from there. Okay, so this number here is 16, and we add the 32, so we get that. Okay, so that one's fine. So then this one here is plus, oh, that's the same number here. So that should be this number here. So I don't need to copy that. Oh, okay, I'm going to move that over here. Okay. Does that give me the same thing? Yeah. Okay, so I can actually get rid of this column here. Oh, no. All right, let's not get rid of that column there. All right, we'll just copy this formula down. Okay, I'm sure I can simplify this table quite a bit. All right, so let's just say I'm panicking and I'm going to decrease the rent after a couple of days of not getting any interest from anybody, and I decrease the rents. to 1,500. So I'm cutting it by $100 a month. Okay, which in the whole scheme of things, you're like $100. Okay, that's a really fancy dinner out once a month, right? Like one fancy dinner in the course of a month. So it's not that big of a deal. Well, look at it this way. Over the course of the year, now you're making 18,000 instead of 19,200. So it's actually costing you 1,200 just by cutting your rent by $100 per month. Okay. So now it's sitting vacant for a month. So then maybe your argument could be, well, Huong, instead of sitting vacant for 3 months and losing 4,800, you actually make 1,500 and you only lose 1,500, right? So you're basically making a profit here of $3,000, right? So that's quite a lot of fancy dinners there. So if you're thinking, okay, well, if I decrease the rent by $100, I'm going to make myself 3,300. So that's like a great return on that money, right? Okay, so let's just see here what happens here. So now the income for that first year is 16,500. So let's just make sure that we're using the right numbers here. Yeah, so the 18,000 minus your 1,500. So you make 16,500 for the first year. And then in your next year, you're going to make 18, right? Because you're starting off with a full year, no vacancy. So in your year 2, when the tenant's there, you're going to increase the rent by 2%. So you're going to get 360. So you're going to make $30 per month gain. And if you look at this 30 compared to this 32 over here, it's only $2 a month. Like that's what a Tim Hortons coffee, right? So it's not that big of a deal. Like you're basically losing $2 a month. So now let's see. So your monthly rent now is going to go up to $1,530. So yeah, right, because they're starting at 1,500, not 16. Okay, so now your monthly rent in your second year with that tenant is going to be 1,530, and then it's going to go up every single year after that, right? So now let's look at this bigger number to see what the impact is here. Okay, so if you had kept the rent at 1,600 a month, you would have made 21,000 in your 5th year, right, per year. And then in this other scenario, you would just be under the just under the 20,000. Okay, so that's fine. So now I think the way to look at this is, let's just look at the sum here, because I think the way to look at this is at the end of your 5 years, you're going to make you would have made 101,916, whereas with this other scenario where you reduce the rents, okay, you would have made 95,000. Okay, and so the difference there, oops, is $6,000. Okay, so you would have actually made $6,000 if you had kept it at the $1,600 a month. So even though you saved, so in this other scenario where you reduce the rent by $100 a month, even though you made an extra 3,000, over the long term, you would have actually made more money if you took the vacancy at 3 months and sat on the vacancy at 3 months. Okay, so I'm going to let that sink in there, because if you're panicking, thinking, oh my God, the landlord-tenant rules are so tough, I just need to decrease my rent to get a good tenant in there. Okay, the thing to think about is that if you're lowering the rent, you are opening up the pool of people that you can rent to, yes, because it's now a little bit more affordable, but you're also opening it up to a group of people who may not have the best stable professional job. Okay, so let me see another way to look at this. Okay, so let's look at it per month. Okay, and let's see if that makes a difference here. So, okay, so over here, I'm going to go over here and do the calculation over here and see, because I'm interested to see at what point would I actually make up that difference of the 3,300. So in my first year that I do the rental increase, I would have actually made 1,200 more if I just sat on it, waited 3 months and done the 1,600. And then in my second year, it would be the same calculation. So I'm just taking that. So I want to do a sum here. Oh, not there, there. Okay, so by my second increase, I still wouldn't have made back that money. Okay, so now let's go into the third year. So it is only at the end of that third year that I make back that money, equivalent to decreasing the rent by $100 and not having to sit on it vacant for 3 months and just sitting on it for 1 month. Okay, so it actually might make sense to decrease the rent by $100 because during those 3 years, the tenant could potentially move out and then you bump it up back to the market rent. So then you would have saved or made 3,000 and you really would have only just lost 1,200. So you would actually be in the gain if that person decided to move out in 12 months. And that's assuming that the rents have gone up in the marketplace. And so then you could potentially get more than 1530, right? Like that's your target there on the 15, if you were going to go into the new market in a year's time. So it might actually make sense to decrease your rent and only have 1 month vacancy. Now, if you have, let's see, 1 month vacancy, but then that person stayed in there for a very long time, okay, then that's where it's actually better to have 3 months vacancy than to take the the vacancy loss and potentially just make the 3,000 and take that, the smaller gains later on, right? So I think at this point, it'd be interesting to find out what's the sort of average time that people stay in a unit. And the thing is, I've had a lot of tenants who move after 1 year or 2 years, but on average, I would say my tenants stay with me more than 3 years, right? Like I've had, I want to say 3 or 4 tenants who've stayed with me for longer than 8 years. So based on my data with the properties that I self-manage, I would say potentially holding tight and having a vacancy in 3 months would actually make sense for me. If you're seeing a higher vacancy, like a turnover, then potentially doing a decrease and then taking that monthly loss would make sense for you. Okay, so now let's run a quick analysis saying, okay, well, what if you just cut it by $50 instead of 100? Okay, so now here the numbers, the difference over the 5-year period is only $3,000, right? And so you would actually be making a gain of 3,250, and the losses per year is around like just over $600. So if your rental decrease is, $10, $20, it actually might make sense for you to make that offering to get a tenant in there so that you only have, like, let's say a 1 month vacancy. Now, if you make this cut and you still have a 3 month vacancy, well, then you're probably, yeah, like then even if you did it at 16, it wouldn't matter because there's something wrong with your unit that it's not moving, right? So in Toronto, usually my units sit vacant maybe 2 weeks. So if I'm at 2 weeks here, I usually don't have to decrease the rents in Toronto. So usually what I'll do is I'll have a tenant come in and they'll like, okay, Hong, I'd love to take the unit. And are you okay decreasing the rent by $50, right? A month or something like that, which at that point, let's run this. So I'm going to go 1 month here, 1 month there, and I've decreased the rent by $50 here. So it's going to cost me about $600 a year. Okay. And in the whole scheme of things, let's say in 5 years, it's costing me $3,000, right? So for me to get a good tenant in and to take a $50 a month loss, I'm okay with that. Usually I'll try to negotiate something else, like saying if they can cover some of the hydro if they can, or if there's laundry included, right, then I'll say, okay, well, then you pay this much for water, right? So I'll try to negotiate with them some way too, so that in the end, I'm not actually out $50. Okay, so that is, wow, I'm just looking at the time. That was the full 30 minutes. All right, so next time, let's see. So that covers that question. So is it better to reduce the rent to get a tenant, or to have a vacant unit for a few months? So hopefully this answers the question for you. And as you can see, the answer is it depends. Okay, just like every answer, just like the normal answer I get when I talk to every single financial advisor. Well, Hong, it depends. Okay, so I did my shout outs. Oh, yes. So the monthly mastermind is coming up. So if you are interested in getting group support on your real estate journey, reach out to me and get invited to the mastermind. It's a great place. It's a safe place to come and say, hey, I'm having this issue, or I'm working on this, and can somebody help me with that? Okay, so is there anything else I can tell you about the vacancy versus decreasing the rents? I can't think of anything else to tell you guys on that. So I'm going to end it there. So have a wonderful Monday, everybody, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.